Welcome back to Legal Matters with the American Law Firm and WIFR. I'm Mike Garrigan with 23 News, and our guest is attorney John Hansen with the American Law Firm. As I mentioned earlier tonight, Legal Matters is a half-hour informational and news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics of interest to State Line viewers. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen, who will provide you with free information regarding your issue. Attorneys will be standing by until 8 tonight to take your call. Our opening statement tonight concerns two subjects. First, we're going to talk tonight with Attorney Hansen about his law firm's approach to the practice of law and what clients should expect when hiring a firm to handle their legal matter. Secondly, we're going to devote some time tonight to a discussion about probate law, dealing with a person's death and the inheritance of their property. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to remind our viewers of the multiple practice areas that the American Law Firm concentrates in. The American Law Firm is a general practice law firm that concentrates in divorce and family law cases, bankruptcy matters, personal injury claims, criminal traffic and DUI issues, wills, trust, and probate matters, and real estate and business transactions. So please feel free to call tonight and discuss any of these practice areas with the attorneys standing by. Now on to tonight's topic. And John, tell us just a little bit about the American Law Firm.
Sure. We're based in Rockford, Illinois, and we're located near the intersection of Mulford and State. And like you mentioned, we are a general practice firm, which means we have several attorneys working in several different areas of law. And one thing I like to mention is there's a reason why we're called the American Law Firm. We believe in the American values of honest, hard work and respect for each individual, no matter their background, no matter their problems. And we believe that our representation style plays that out. And for example, this country was founded on a Bill of Rights, and we have a Bill of Rights for each client, where we respect their problems and we give them full attention. If they have a question, we respond to it in a timely manner, and if they have any issues, we address them aggressively. And so we call that our Bill of Rights for our client. And that's why we call it the American Law Firm. And like you said, we have attorneys standing by right now during the show. They can call that number on the screen and we can answer their questions. And the phones are going to be busy. I just want people to know that they can call back and keep trying if it's a busy signal, and call until like 7:30 at night. And even if it's busy then, call the next day and we'll answer your questions.
All right. And again, that is free information that you provide with those calls. And you did mention that American Law Firm is a general practice firm. Can you kind of expand on what that means, a general practice firm?
Yeah, sure. Some people aren't familiar with what that means, but basically we cover many areas of law, and I'll rattle off a few, but divorce, family law, estate planning and probate law, bankruptcy, criminal defense, and real estate and probate law as well. And so we have a multifaceted practice, and we can address many clients' issues that aren't in that list too. So we encourage people to come by, and we do free consultations so we can discuss their particular issues each time.
Now, we visit doctors 2 or 3 times a year. We might not visit lawyers 2 or 3 times in a lifetime. So what can people expect who have never been to a law firm if they come and visit the American Law Firm?
Right. I mean, the Bill of Rights I talked about is a real key thing for us. We really respect each person's individual case, and we respond to each person's individual problems directly. And there's a few examples of how we approach that. First, like I mentioned, we have free consultations that we offer for anybody in any area of law that we practice. So they'll come in and sit down and discuss their issues, and we'll give them some advice and try to guide them on what they need to do for their problems. The second area is we offer flat fees for attorney's fees. And it's kind of opposed to a retainer where maybe somebody pays a lawyer and they bill by the hour. A flat fee is just a dollar figure that the client knows up front what it's going to be, helps them budget kind of for what they're going to have to pay for the practice. And lastly, we do payment plans for clients that are kind of in a financial bind. And we'll take up a lump sum of money and work out a payment plan for certain clients. So it's just some of the examples that we do with that client Bill of Rights that we have.
So John, can you sum up to the viewers your firm's approach to practicing law?
Sure. I mean, many clients that come see us, they're very anxiety ridden and they've reached a point where they must get help. And so we respect that. And I know it takes a lot of courage to come see a lawyer and talk about your issues. So we embrace that kind of courage and we sit down and give everybody the time they need to discuss their issues. And we focus on goal-oriented practice of law, meaning we focus on what's the winnable goals here and let's get to that point quickly. Not rushing into court necessarily, but we will if we have to. And not creating issues, but creating solutions to their goals. That's kind of the way I phrase our approach to practice of law.
Okay, you mentioned real estate as one of the areas your firm practices in. Can you speak a bit about that area?
Yeah, quickly, you know, it deals with selling property, selling land, things like that. And so oftentimes we'll be at a closing of real estate, like buying a house, and we'll review the contracts. We'll make sure there's no issues with the contracts. We'll handle any deed issues or title issues of the ownership. But real estate law can also encompass preparing leases for property. If there's an issue with ownership, we can work on that. If there's a problem with a probate case where there's real estate that a dead person owned, we can sell the real estate and get that probate case finished. So it kind of encompasses a lot of different areas.
And some people may think of landlord and tenant law as part of what real estate attorneys do. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I mean, landlord-tenant law is technically under real estate law, and that deals with preparing leases for landlords, helping tenants with issues with their residents, even working on evictions issues and stuff like that. And there's many examples where somebody comes in and they're not sure what their rights are, so we'll talk about the landlord-tenant laws in Illinois and kind of give them some guidance. Okay,
and right now, as the segment is being shown, we have attorneys standing by to answer legal questions from callers. The number again, 815-394-1776. You see that on your screen, the entire broadcast, and we should call that number right now to speak with one of the American law firm attorneys to discuss their options. When we return to Legal Matters, John Hansen will share his knowledge on probate law. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Mike Garrigan with attorney John Hansen from the American law firm, continuing to talk legal matters that affect many state liners. And if you want to talk to an attorney right now, live for free, just call the number on your screen, and an attorney from the American law firm will be on the other end to answer your call. Now, John, you mentioned one of the areas of law that your firm practices is probate law.
Right.
Can you explain to everyone out there a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, probate law deals with a court process where a person who's passed away, their assets is transferred to their beneficiaries or their heirs. And it can deal with selling real estate or liquidating bank accounts and having it all passed on to the beneficiaries. So there's a lot of work with each particular case because everybody has their own financial situation when they pass away. So it deals with that area mostly.
Okay, so is opening a probate case in court always necessary when someone dies and has assets?
Well, it kind of depends on what they had when they died. The law in Illinois is pretty specific about that. If a person passes away and all of their property added up together is worth less than $100,000, then oftentimes probate court is not needed. And we can do a document called a small estates affidavit, which just provides for where the property is going to go. On the flip side, if their property is over $100,000, then the law says you have to go to probate court and have a judge essentially approve the transition of the beneficiary's assets.
Okay, so why is avoiding probate court so important?
Well, you know, it's a process we take advantage of when we need to, but it is best to be avoided in most cases for a few reasons. One is the time involved. If we have to go to court, there's oftentimes many months, sometimes many years involved in transferring property, depending on what there is when someone dies. And along with that, there's expense involved. You have to pay attorney's fees. It can be pretty expensive. And oftentimes there's other fees associated with the court process. And lastly, it is a public case. When you file a probate case, anyone can look at the case court file. And so you want to kind of avoid that so nobody can really see what the assets are in a person's estate. So just a few examples of why probate court should be avoided in most cases.
No, people often have a will but don't know what happens with it when they die. How is a person's will involved in the probate process?
It's pretty important. Everybody should have a will. And when a person dies, the will gives direction, obviously, as to where their property goes and to who it goes to. First, we'll record the will at the recorder's office in the county where the person lived, and then we see what it says and we follow along accordingly with the instructions. And wills can be contested in a probate case. Sometimes the spouse will contest what the other spouse said in their will. Sometimes the family, the beneficiaries, can contest certain portions or contest how it was made to begin with. So it can be a pretty hot issue in some cases. And if there's no will, if somebody doesn't have a will, then the Illinois has a statute that basically says what happens to their property. So that should be avoided, and everybody should have at least a simple will.
Now, a lot of people, when they die, they owe money. What happens to those persons' debts when they die?
Right, it's a common question, and it's a bit technical, but it kind of depends on whether there's a court case or not. So if there's a court case, then we publish a notice in the newspaper per law, and the creditors are then given notice by that publication. And if we do that, then the creditors have 6 months to file a claim, or their debts will be barred after that 6-month period. On the flip side, if there's no probate court case and we don't have to do a publication, then by law the creditors have 2 years from the date of the death to try to collect their debts. That's kind of the time limits involved.
So when you are handling a probate case, are you working for the deceased person and their estate, or are you working for those people who are inheriting the person's property?
Right. It can be either situation. If an executor to a will, somebody in the will who's appointed as the person in charge, if they come hire us, then we essentially work for the deceased person's estate, work for the executor. But in some circumstances, a family member will come and hire us who's set to receive property and inheritance. And maybe they feel like the case is not being handled correctly by the executor, or they feel like there's some miscommunication. We'll represent the beneficiary in that case. So it kind of depends on who comes and hire us and what they're looking to get.
Do you have any final thoughts you want to get across to our viewers involving probate law?
Sure. One special final thought is I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays. And I want to reiterate that, again, there's a reason why we're called the American Law Firm. We believe in the American values of honest, hard work, respect for the individual, no matter their background, no matter their problems. And we play that out accordingly by how we represent clients. Simple, flat fees for our attorney's fees, free consultations in any area of law that we practice, and payment plans for clients that are kind of in a financial bind are some examples of why we believe in that system and why we call ourselves the American Law Firm. Now remember, you can call that number on the screen, and we're standing by right now to answer. There's lawyers at the office standing by right now to answer phone calls from the viewers. It's going to be busy, so if you get a busy signal, keep calling. We're going to be there till about 7:30.
Right.
And if you still can't get through, call us the next day, and we'll try to answer your questions.
That makes sense, and we wish you a happy Thanksgiving, John, and as
Thank you.
always, we thank you for your insight on these legal matters. And again, the number on your screen, 815-394-1776. We'll be right back.